1941, Salisbury Fields, England. The ground trembles under the weight of steel and mud. Amid the cold morning mist, a line of British tanks slowly advances and stops. Engines sputter, gears grind like teeth breaking. A German officer looks across the channel, a report in hand, and laughs. "The English want to race us, but not even their tanks can leave the proving ground." Laughter echoes through the Berlin conference room. The British seemed stuck in the past, lumbering, slow, predictable. But what those officers didn't know is that at that very moment, in the dark warehouses of a factory in Birmingham, a group of engineers were about to create the impossible gear, a mechanism so audacious that for a brief instant would make British tanks fly across the land. What they didn't know was that on that day, they were witnessing the beginning of their own end. It all started with one man, Major W.G. Wilson, an engineer and World War I veteran. He had seen the hell of the trenches up close, stuck tanks, burned-out engines, broken gears. He swore that if a new war came, he would create something different. In 1940, with the Nazi threat growing, the British War Office issued a challenge: build a tank that can run faster than the Panzer. The problem? Conventional gearboxes, manual with levers, were monstrous. A 30-ton tank required brute force to shift gears. British drivers finished the maneuvers with blood on their hands. Wilson proposed something that bordered on madness: an epicyclic transmission without clutch, combined with a hydraulic control system, a pre-selector gearbox capable of changing gears with a simple touch. They called the project Merritt-Brown Gearbox, and soon it was nicknamed in the factories the Impossible Gear. In the first tests on a Cromwell tank, the system exploded. The oil boiled, gears shattered like internal grenades. A mechanical disaster, the 1941 report said. But Wilson replied calmly, "A failure is only the outline of a victory that has not yet understood its purpose." While officials scoffed at the expensive and temperamental project, the engineers continued night after night, changing alloys, recalibrating valves, and redesigning the mechanical heart of the future. No one imagined that this apparent failure carried the seed of victory. The premiere took place in Normandy, June 1944. The Cromwell tank, equipped with the new gearbox, was fast, in theory, but the French fields were the ultimate test. The 1st Squadron of the 7th Armoured Division, the Desert Rats, advanced on Villers-Bocage. The expectation was high. The result was disastrous. The Cromwell was flying at 60 km/h on the road, but its gears jammed on the climbs, the oil overheated, and the towers rotated slowly under failing hydraulic pressure. Internal reports were harsh. Unacceptable performance on uneven terrain. The transmission behaves like an untamed animal. Meanwhile, the German Panzer IVs and Tigers, with their Maybach engines and precision gearboxes, moved like hunters in an open field. A British commander wrote, "The tank is fast, but only when the enemy isn't looking." The Germans laughed again. The impossible gear seemed to live up to its name. British pride seemed more a technical curiosity than a weapon of war. But something was about to change. The turnaround began quietly, not on the battlefield, but in the workshops. Wilson's engineers discovered a simple problem: driver training. The Merritt-Brown was no ordinary box, it was a precision machine. Using force destroyed the system. Using lightness transformed it into art. They trained new drivers with detailed instructions. No forcing, no clutching, just select and release. In August 1944, a revised Cromwell squadron engaged the Panzers near Falaise. This time, the machines slid through the mud like felines. They changed gears without a jolt, retreated under fire, and were back firing within seconds. A field report said, "It's the first tank that moves as if it had consciousness." The secret wasn't in strength, it was in fluidity. The British gearbox, once ridiculed, now allowed maneuvers that the Germans could not match. The impossible gear had become the invisible weapon of mobility. Autumn 1944. The Cromwell and Comet tanks, equipped with refined versions of the Merritt-Brown, led offensives across northern Europe. The sound of marches had become a symbol of something new: speed with control. As the Tigers slowly rotated their turrets, the British were already on their flanks and disappeared before the second shot. "It's like trying to hit a ghost," wrote a Wehrmacht commander. German reports, captured after the war, revealed a rare tone: respect. What started as a joke turned into fear. The English tanks now move as if the terrain was made for them. The cadence of the gears, an almost musical metallic hum, anticipated the British attack like the tolling of a funeral bell. The Merritt-Brown gearbox was complex, expensive, temperamental, but its combination of power and smoothness transformed Allied armored vehicles into instruments of deadly precision. The lesson spread quickly. While Germany relied on over-engineered, almost artisanal machines, the British bet on pragmatic, modular and adaptable engineering. Merritt-Brown inspired a new doctrine: mobility before mass, control before strength. The system equipped the Churchill, Comet and in the future the Centurion, a tank that would survive decades beyond the war. Wilson, the engineer, received a personal letter from the War Office. His gearbox changed our understanding of movement and of war. But there was a price. The gear was so complex that few knew how to repair it. In prolonged battles, maintenance became a nightmare. Small failures paralyzed entire platoons. What had once been a symbol of mobility began, ironically, to freeze British progress. The impossible gear had defeated the enemy, but now threatened to overcome its own creators. May 1945. The German laughter had turned to silence. The British tanks, fast and disciplined, had crossed Europe. But in recent days, many have been immobilized, not by enemy fire but by its own mechanical entrails. Soldiers called the gearbox the heart that runs until it breaks. Years later, a veteran engineer would bitterly summarize, "We created a machine so advanced that only patience could keep up with it." The Merritt-Brown gearbox has become a symbol of a British paradox: the relentless pursuit of mechanical perfection, even when that perfection exacts a human price. They laughed when they saw the British tanks sputtering on the proving ground. They stopped laughing when the sound of gears mixed with the thunder of defeat. But in the end, that same impossible gear taught something deeper than any victory. Freedom is the engine that should never stop. The thunder spoke, and the sound of progress echoed louder than the laughter of war.